Welcome to Torrential Riff, Visual Vodcast, Episode 5. Today's special guest is Larry Worley from the band Fear Not. Larry talks about how Love Life was formed and how that transformed into Fear Not. And also, there's a band that he was in before those bands that had an official release. So if you didn't know anything about that, stay tuned. Also, we talk about stories of Larry in the studio with John and Dino Elefante. All that and more on the episode coming up next. Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome to Torrential Riff. Today's special guest is Larry Worley from the band Fear Not. Larry, thanks for coming on the show and taking some time to answer some questions today.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for having me, buddy. It's my honor, really.
Yeah, I love the resurgence of the a lot of the '80s and early '90s bands coming back and making some new music, some great music. So we're gonna start at the beginning. So when did you first start either getting into music, or I know you play also good, aside from being a great singer, you also play guitar. How did your musical career start?
So really, it started really young because my dad played guitar, and he, back in the day, he was a really huge like Elvis fan, Johnny Cash, and that type of music, and so I just remember vividly him coming home from work or on the weekends that he would always keep his guitar like in the corner of the side of his bed, and every time I knew if he was walking back into his bedroom, I knew what he was going to do, so I'd follow him in there, and I was probably 10 years old, when I really started getting involved and really listening and taking an interest, and I'd just sit and he'd kind of like put on like a little mini concert for me sitting on the edge of the bed and just going through all the Elvis songs and Johnny Cash songs and stuff, and I would just like literally study his hands and what he was doing and where he was placing his fingers on the guitar neck and how he was strumming and stuff, and he would put the guitar down and I'd pick it up and I'd try to mimic what he was doing, but it just wasn't happening. I just couldn't do it. But I got a little older, and I think I was about 12 when I really sat down and I'm like, hey, how do you play a D chord? How do you play an E chord? What are the chords? And he showed me like an E chord and a D chord, and I was just like, man, I just couldn't get it. It was big like clunk, 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 And just one day I was just sitting there, and I'm pretty sure it was like a D chord, and I placed my fingers where he told me to, man, and I hit it, and it just rang out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is, and so at 12 is when I really, started learning the guitar, and I immediately, once I learned like the few chords, like the basic, E, C, G, D, and A. I immediately started like writing songs. I just started putting chords together, and I got really into like kind of the folk stuff, like Neil Young and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Cat Stevens, kind of that type of music. And so I would just sit and write songs like that, and that's kind of how it started. And then my cousin was also, around my age, and we were very close. And he started picking up the bass, and we just started putting garage bands together at like 12, 13 years old, We thought we were, it, yeah. But it was fun, looking back, and just going, oh my gosh, hundreds of songs we'd written that I couldn't even tell you what they were now. But it was so fun. But I was about 12 or 13.
So when did you first play your first gig at a club? Like at what age and what style was it back then?
Yeah, well, actually, what happened was first our first show that we ever did, because we became Christians kind of early. You know, I think I was 16 years old when I first found salvation. Not when I first found salvation, when I found salvation. You know,
Yep.
we put a little band together with a guy from high school and my cousin, and we had met another guy who was playing drums and stuff, and we played for our youth group at church, and that was our first show that we ever did. At that, we were hooked. Then it was like, oh man, okay, we're really it now. You know, here we go. We started playing out more, and then that band disbanded. But my cousin and I, we kept playing together, and now I think we were like 18, maybe just. Man, I can't remember if we were still in high school or if we were just out of high school. At the time, I knew another guy in high school that we wanted to hook up with, and we were getting really serious about wanting to play music, you know, seriously.
Yeah.
It was so funny. We were sitting there talking about this in my living room and going, okay, we need to get Joe, you know, to come and sing, because at the time I was just playing guitar and I could sing, but I just really wanted to play guitar at the time. And I knew that my friend Joe was a great singer. As we were talking, and mind you, I hadn't talked to this guy in months and months. And we're sitting there talking. The next thing, you hear the doorbell ring. And I go and open the door, and it's this guy standing there. And, you know, I startled him because I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? And he's like what? What do I do? You know? And I'm like, we were literally just talking about you, you know?
Yeah.
We ended up putting another band together with a couple other guys from high school. We ended up all like moving into this house together and setting the living room up as our practice space. And we began writing songs, and next thing you know, we're playing like Gazzari's down in Hollywood, and frequently we started playing.
So was your band more faith-based or just secular?
At that time, we just wanted to play music, you know. So my cousin and I were believers, but a couple of the other guys in the band were not believers, and so we just started playing like secular music and going down and playing really any club that we could get to that would let us play, right?
Yep.
And so we started making some noise, and we were like packing out Gazzari's, and unbeknownst to me, I don't know why, but people were just drawn to this band.
Were you the singer at this point?
No, it was I
Okay.
was just a guitar player,
Okay.
and we would just get together and all just kind of write the songs together,
Yep.
but I just started getting really convicted. You know, I mean, I was just like, you know, I just really feel led to just be in a faith-based band. I knew that I wanted to do this for a purpose other than just, you know, for selfish needs or just wanting to become a rock star or something, you know.
And about what year was that when
That was like 83-ish.
oh, okay.
83-ish. I decided, well, here's how it really happened. So we're actually scheduled to play at Gazzari's this night. And hours before, I had a friend who had been praying for me. And in fact, it was the drummer of the band that played with us at our first gig that played at that youth group. And his wife and himself had been praying, and his wife just really felt led for him to call me and basically tell me that I was at a crossroads, you know, and it was like the time is now for you to make that decision. And I had already been, you know, feeling like I need to leave this band, and you know, and but he called me and he says, you know, Jan had wanted me to call you and to let you know that today is your day, and the decision is now, and the decision basically is whatever decision you make right now is going to determine the rest of your life.
Wow.
And I was like, dude, that's like too heavy for me right
It's
now.
heavy.
Whoa, this is heavy. There's that word again, heavy.
He's like, but that's it. I mean, this is what she told me to tell you, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, I've been thinking about this, and I really feel like it's time for me to leave the band I'm in and try to look for or put together a band that's more faith based and with the purpose. And I go, okay, so I have this show tonight that I'm committed to at Gazzari's. And after tonight, I will let them know. And he stops me. He's like, no, 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 no. You don't understand. If you go to that show and you do that show, then you have made your decision.
Wow.
And yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, okay, then I'm not going to go to the show. I won't go to the show. And so, you know, I didn't do it in the best way, but you know, I kind of avoided they're come to pick me up, and I kind of avoided them. And then they called me, and you know, they're like, Larry, where are you at? And that's how I'm like basically told them, you know, I won't be coming tonight. And they're like, what do you mean? You know, I'm like, well, you know, this is where I'm at, and this is what's happening. And mind you, my cousin was in the band, and
Yeah, I was just gonna say
it hurt him pretty bad, you know. But I knew that, you know, and I took that phone call very seriously, you know.
Yeah, that was a word being given to you.
Absolutely. So I took it at that, and you know, it really strained our relationship for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I ended up, the Lord blessed me in that, you know, and he brought me to a new band. It was a band called CIA, and it was like a excuse me, it was like a Duran Duran new wave-ish band, believe it or not.
Well, that was popular in '83.
Yeah, you know, and it wasn't long after that I had joined that band. And the keyboard player actually played like the bass on his keys, and I'm like, man, you really need a live bass player, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, do you know one? And I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, I do. But you know, he's in another band right now. And my heart just wanted my cousin back, you know, and back in, you know, and to make that decision that I made too. It didn't take long. And I'm like, hey, Bob, you know, I've got this opportunity for you, you know, if you want it.
So was that new band more faith-based or?
Yeah, absolutely. It was all.
Yeah.
And so he left that band as well and came over and joined us. And we ended up getting on the Maranatha label. I don't know if you remember that back in the 80s. There was like the Maranatha label had like Daryl Mansfield, Undercover, the Altar Boys, all these these alternative bands, right?
Yeah.
People thought it was an acronym. It was actually just CIA, but
what does it stand for? CIA?
Yeah, we put all these like Christ in action, or Christ is alive, Christians in action. You know,
you know, Christians love their acronyms.
Yeah, oh yeah. So we're like, yeah, whatever you want it to be. That's as long as it's good, we're cool with it. You know, and so which actually did really well. I mean, we got to play like some really big shows. We did in 1984 when the Olympics were in LA. We got to play on the main stage for all the athletes at the '84 Olympics.
Wow.
It was awesome. You know, we met a lot of cool people there. You know, like we met Belinda Carlisle from the Ghost.
Yeah.
You know, and she hung around and watched us play, and we played with Donna Summers, believe it or not, had a sister. I don't remember what her name was, but she actually headlined that night, and it was just awesome. We actually played twice there. We played there at the main stage in the Olympic Village, and then we played another small stage there, and it was really cool. And we played a lot that time. We played a lot. We played a lot with a lot of those bands that I was telling you about, the Altar Boys and Undercover and things like that. And then I guess it ran its course for a couple years, and they knew that I was a rocker. I mean, and at this time, like we would go in and play our stuff, but then I would leave, and I would go in like to my room or whatever, and I would be cranking like Rat, and and they're like, dude, you need to be in a metal band. And so eventually it ended up turning into that, and
So,
I
so how
guess
did you leave and kind of form your
I,
own band?
I did. No, I left, and I was struggling trying to find bands. I actually left, moved to Oklahoma for about a year and a half, and when I was in Oklahoma, I formed a band with a couple of local guys, Bruce Fouts and his cousin Robbie Fouts, and we were called Warriors of the Sun, and we got that from
Hey,
the
right? Yeah,
yeah, from their album title.
yeah. 85, 80,
Yeah,
86.
Yep, it was at 85 because it was 85, and we left and we came back at about 86, maybe a little bit between 86 and 87.
Yeah.
We come back to California.
And Striper's going huge.
Oh, Striper's going crazy.
You're like,
And
hey, we can do this. I can do this.
yeah, yeah. In fact, I would go watch them play at like the Troubadour and La Whiskey and all the clubs there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then so I'm like, I'm itching to play again. So I'm not meeting anybody, and I just happened to go. There's this thing in California called the Recycler. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's there's a section in there for musicians wanted and things, and I come across this one, and it says looking for a singer, and I'm like, well, I guess it's time for me to start trying to sing. I go and I answer this ad, and lo and behold, it's Gary Hansen and Darren Eby, and there was another bass player, Mike Link. In fact, Mike, after a while, he was in the band for just a little bit, and then we ended up getting Rod Romero. But Mike ended up leaving, and he joined like Mad at the World
Okay.
and Rose. Yeah, he went on to play with those guys. Man,
Okay.
Mike is he. If you don't know Mike Leake, he is a phenomenal bass player. Phenomenal. But so it was those guys, and then I ended up joining the band. We started writing songs. Mike decided that he was going to leave the band, so we're like, okay, we knew Rod Romero from all these other bands that were, you always have that circle of bands, right, that kind of
Right.
hang out and roadie for each other and things. Well, we had that going on, and I approached Rod and was like, Rod, are you in a band or anything? You doing anything? And he's like, no, just kind of hanging out. And I think he was going to BIT at that time. And I asked him if he'd be interested in coming and checking us out. He's like, yeah. And he came over, and I had handed him a few of the songs that we were doing at the time. Man, he came aboard, and it was a perfect fit. And we practiced and we practiced and we practiced, and we wrote songs and we wrote songs, and we did demos and we did demos, and then we finally started playing out. And when we started playing out, we were pretty prepared. So we were playing. Gary remembers most of the club names that we were playing at the time. We were playing a lot, and then we played this one, and I wish I could remember the name, but I think it was in Monrovia. I might be wrong. You'd have to ask Gary if you ever talked to Gary. But anyways, there was Michael Knott and his band were there playing that night.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking to, I guess it was his A&R guy for his record company that he had. And he's like, he talked to somebody and they told him that we weren't signed, you know, and he's like, why are these guys not signed? You know, and so they approached us, and we thought it was really weird, you know, that Blonde Vinyl would be interested in a rock band, you know.
Yeah.
But they're like, we just want to span our audience, you know. We have all these alternative bands. We want to try to go and pick up more. Well, I guess it ended up just always being just us. But, you know, we signed a 1 year, 1 record deal with them.
Joined the band, was it called Love War, or did the band...
No, it was called Love Life.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's funny because during that time we went through like 30 name changes, you know, before actually Love Life. You know, we were like Forever, Justice. I don't remember. We were like, we just could not decide on a set name, you know. We decided on Love Life, and we started playing out as Love Life, and people were, you know, responding, and it started doing really well. And then, of course, we caught the attention of the guys at Blonde Vinyl, and we signed with them, and they're like, we want you to go ahead and record this album at Pachyderm Records. And we're like, really? And they're like, yep. We go there, and we meet John and Dino. Of course, we're in Studio B, you know, and I don't remember who was in Studio A. But I know they were recording a bunch of stuff in Studio A. But we had Studio B, which was still a great studio. They had hired an engineer, Brian. I know his name's Brian. Can't remember his name, but he's such a great guy, such a cool guy. Chris, who was the A&R guy, was sent there with us to produce it. Well, he didn't really want to produce it. You know, he was just wanted to kind of oversee the project. So I ended up producing the album.
Okay.
And which, you know, I wish I knew more and had more experience at that time. You know, I knew how to write songs, and I knew how I wanted them to be arranged and everything. But when it came to actually mixing and the sounds, you know, I just wasn't there yet, right? And I really relied on Brian. So I'm not real happy with the production of that album, but you know, people.
I'm definitely a big fan.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest on it, but when we recently, me, Joe Walker, and the Area 321 guys, we got together and we're talking about different bands, and we're like, that Love Life record is really good. We know Larry doesn't like it that much, but we're like, great songs, and I don't put it down, but we love it. It's just, even though production wasn't the best, but the new remaster that came out not long ago sounds great.
Yeah, they did a good job. And for me, it's really just the guitar tones for me.
Yeah.
You know, they just sound thin and a little.
Yeah, right. And the remaster thickens it up a little bit, gives a little beef on the low end too.
Yeah.
But the songs were great. I'm not a big ballad guy. I'm more just heavy metal songs.
Yeah.
Ballad person.
Yeah.
But, when loneliness comes knocking at the door.
Yeah.
I never hit skip on that. It's just so good.
Thanks. Yeah.
A lot of your ballads I really like.
Yeah, and maybe that comes from, you know, the when I first started playing in that whole just the acoustic vibe, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, I really love melody. You know,
right.
I love melody. If it doesn't have a good melody, then it's hard for me, you know. But that's just how I write, you know.
Right.
I just want things to be when I can imagine somebody the songs going into somebody else's ears, and like, is that gonna put a smile on their face, or you know?
I mean, the best compliment I could say is, I'll listen to the songs, and then the next day I wake up, and in the shower I'm hearing the songs.
Yeah.
You know, you'll hear that chorus. I'm like, man, when that chorus gets in your head and you're singing it the next day, that's a great song.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I agree with that. You know, because that's how, for me, I think that's how I got into songwriting, was listening to songs like that were hooky and catchy, and that, man, if I was singing that song just like what you're saying, then I knew that's the kind of songs I wanted to write.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I love Cheap Trick, and you know, their melodies and harmonies and things like that. But
so I just want to let you know, the fans, we love the Love Life stuff. So don't put it. You know, I know the production wise, you're not a big fan. You know, back in the day, like, to us, we were, you know, especially me, I was collecting Christian rock bands, so you could get a CD that was like not that great of production. So not that was the best, but it wasn't the worst by far. So
yeah.
the songs really shine through. So
Yeah.
We really enjoyed it as fans.
Yeah. We're definitely proud of it. You know, it definitely had its purpose into moving us into the next, or to the next level, if you will. You know, I mean, it definitely had its purpose, and it's just that stepping stone, right?
Right.
God used it big time. You know, again, when we were playing out, we got to meet a lot of people, and we got to minister to a lot of people. So there's definitely purpose, and man, it was fun, and it was fun doing that. You know, so.
Did you have any say on the packaging, or the label was like, this is what we're doing, and you have no say?
Yeah, no. In fact, I think we had a lot of control over that, you know, because I remember like picking that house in Ontario, the cover of the house in Ontario. You know, I knew that I wanted an old house, you know, that had a porch, and you know, it seems like all of our album covers have houses, and I don't know.
Yeah, the new one, yeah.
But yeah, I think, you know, if I remember, we had a lot, because the little boy on the back was my nephew, and then the grandmother is what we call her, a grandma. That was Gary's grandmother.
Okay.
So
that's cool to know. So what was the response from that you saw from fans or the media reviewing it? What was the response from everybody?
Well, it was good. You know, I don't ever remember hearing anything, you know, negative, and everything that we read, you know, was positive. Excuse me. I don't even think, or maybe I did in Heaven's Middle. Maybe they did say there was the little thing about the production that they were expecting a little more. But other than that, you know, everybody had praise about that album, you know, and I think we even had some charting songs on there. Maybe even a couple of number ones, if I remember, on the CCM chart, you know, that they would put out in Heaven's Metal.
This is notorious in Christian labels, from what I hear from bands. Did you have any idea how many were sold?
No, and that I wish I knew. I just don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. Even on the Fear Not stuff, I don't have a clue.
Oh man!
But I was receiving statements from them. I was receiving statements, because they you know, they're legit. You know.
Well, that's good.
Word records. You know, they were definitely legit, and they did things professionally. But I didn't know how to read that stuff.
Right.
You know,
it's money. I got paid.
Yeah. You know, I had some royalty checks come in, but yeah, I wish I knew how to read it just to see. So I honestly don't know how many units sold, but I would guess that it was quite a few, or at least I knew that we were getting airplay and stuff. overseas because it seemed like most of our fan base is like over in South America. I don't know. I know that we had gotten some fan mail and stuff from over in Japan too, but
Yeah, that's cool.
mainly South America, I think, where it's huge.
Yeah, I know Guardian did really good down there.
Oh, Guardian and Bride.
They were huge.
Oh yeah, and still are.
Yeah.
Are.
So a question I forgot to ask was, how did Love Life transform into or morph into Fear Not?
Yes. Okay. So, um, um, at the end of Love Life, how that was coming to an end was um, our guitar player Darren. Um, he was just kind of moving towards a different direction musically, and he got this job at Guitar Center at the time, and so he started meeting people there and guys from MIT or GIT and things, and so I think his interest started just kind of moving elsewhere.
Yeah.
And so we ended on a good note, it was like, it's okay. And immediately it was like God just brought into remembrance this guy that we would see at the NAMM show. And if you're not familiar with the NAMM, in fact, it just happened here last month.
Yeah, I saw you guys
Earlier this
there.
month. Yeah. But it's the National Association of Music Merchants, and you get to go see the latest and greatest of everything that's coming out new,
Yeah.
right? I mean, from guitar picks all the way up to sound, lighting, amps, guitars, bass, everything, the gamut. And it's the best in the business. And we always ran into this guy. And I don't, we just had mutual friends, but we didn't know each other. But I knew, I don't know why, this is just God, and he put into remembrance of this guy. And I'm like, Gary, we need to go to NAMM because NAMM was coming up, and we need to hunt this guy down. I think this is the guy for us, especially the music direction, because we started changing musical directions. I started writing songs a little bit more heavier, a little more bluesier, and so we go to NAMM, and I mean, my eyes were just constantly. I mean, I wasn't even interested in anything else. Looking at the guitars, and I was just like, I want this guy. So
92 NAMM? Or
yeah, it would have been 90. Yeah, it would have been 92, I believe.
93 was the release.
Yeah, so
91 was Love Life.
yeah, so it would have been it would have been 92, and so we never saw him.
Oh,
I was bummed, and so we're walking out, and as we were walking out, I mean, we're literally see the doors, to go out, and here he comes walking in. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm
wow.
like, Gary, there he is. So, I immediately just bolt to this guy, and he probably thought, who is this weirdo running up to me, and so I'm like, hey, Chris, you remember us, and, it's like, yeah, well, I said, we're in the band Love Life, and, we're looking for a guitar player. Don't know if you're even interested in looking at a band, or if you're in a band. Don't know. And he's like, no, I'm actually not in a band at the moment. And yeah, so I gave him the Love Life CD, and he took it home, and we exchanged numbers and everything. And I gave him a few days to listen to it, and so I called him up.
Hello?
You probably listened to it. I hope you did. I hope you listened to it. You interested in getting together and talking? He's like, yeah, let's get together. So we go over to where he was staying, and so I asked him, I'm like, what do you think? He's like, well, it's not really my cup of tea, And I'm like, man, I get it. That's cool. Music was changing, it's getting a little bit heavier and a little more rockier. And I'm like, well, here's the new stuff that I've been working on. And I had brought the cassette tape, and it had Give It Up and There's Love on there as demos. And And so I go, listen to this and tell me if you like this. He put that in the cassette player at the time. He's like, no, that's what I'm talking about. He goes, now I'm interested. And so we ended up hooking up. And so with the change of the sound and then just kind of Darren leaving and Chris coming in, we kind of started developing a whole new look, you know, a whole new sound. Just everything was just kind of changing. So here we are again discussing a name change, you know, and then for about maybe 4 to 6 months, I would say, I ended up putting the guitar down and just singing. And believe it or not, Michael Cutting from Holy Soldier actually came in and joined us for a while, and so we went in the studio and cut some songs together. It sounded really good.
You don't have any of those demos still, do you?
I might. If I don't, Chris might have them.
We would love to hear that.
But I know he has a video that we did at the Magic Castle in California somewhere. I don't know where the Magic Castle was. But he didn't stay in for very long. But when he was in, we changed our name to Fear No Evil. He had that name, you know, so we changed it to Fear No. So we were Fear No Evil for about 4 to 6 months. We did a few shows, and man, was it just clicked. It was sounding good. But I think Michael was itching to get back with Holy Soldier, you know, and you couldn't blame him, you know. Those guys were great. And so Chris was like, well, what do we do now? And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, well, what if we shorten it and just call it Fear Not? You know? And I'm like, okay. And everybody else was like, okay. So we went with Fear Not, and we started doing working with some logos and stuff like that. And then, so that was the change from Love Life to Fear Not. And then Fear Not, then we started playing out and playing all the new stuff, and we still played some Love Life songs, of course, you know, but we really started, as soon as I started, you know, writing and Chris came in, man, I took off and I just started writing like crazy. And so, it really developed into what you heard on the Fear Not record.
Yeah.
And
so, Larry, how did you get signed to Pachyderm Records with John and Dino Elefante?
So, you know, when we were in there recording with the Love Life record, you know, I think they kind of had their eye on us, you know, and just kind of feeling us out, checking us out, you know, making sure we were, you know, real. You know, and actually were what we stood for. Yeah. And we still, you know, the Love Life record came out, and you know, I think they had their feelers out for us, you know, because I remember doing a show with Guardian and talking with Tony, and he was just telling us, you know, hey, I think they're interested, and you know, he was just telling us that, you know, I think you guys are ready, you know. And I'm like, man, that's a huge compliment, you know. And so with that, you know, we had been in negotiations with Blonde Vinyl because we just had the 1 year, one deal.
Right.
And so we were talking again, and we were just like, this is, they were always good to us. I don't have anything bad to say about them at all. They were always good. It was just kind of awkward,
Yeah, it's an odd fit.
And so, so we just kind of knew and kind of sat back and kept doing our thing. And then, I don't remember if it was our manager at the time that was in contact with them and set up a meeting, but I remember that we had to rent a rehearsal space in it was in Orange County, and it was a place where everybody went to. It was a big sound room with a stage and had lights and everything. And so we set up and we did a set for them, and it was John, Dino, and I always forget this gentleman's name. He was the coolest dude.
The engineer.
He was the one that actually signed us. He was from Word Records. So we were on the Pachyderm label, but distributed by Word. Right? And oh gosh, I need to get his name to remember his name because it's gonna really bug me.
So once
he was the
I'll come back and I'll insert it in the down below. I'll put it.
Yeah. But it was so awkward, because here we are, doing this live show, and we were playing like, we were playing for, a crowd, right? And it was just John, Dino, and this gentleman sitting all the way back up against the wall, in these chairs, just kind of their arms folded, and just watching, and we're like, do they like it? What do they think?
They like it?
Yeah, and so after we got done, we were able to just sit down and talk and share. They shared with us, and they were really all about faith-based. They were really all about you say you're a Christian, we want to see it, we want you to walk it, we want you to talk it. They were real, and so we built that relationship, and they saw that we we walked the walk. We weren't trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. We loved Jesus, and we wanted to sing about that, and not all the songs reflect that. My songs that I wrote really back in the day were kind of just life in general, and hence the song "We Have a God," because that song was lyrically something completely different, and that was really one of the songs that was like changed when we went into the studio. And I'll never forget, during pre-production, Dino came over to our rehearsal space, and he was like, "Okay, let's hear the songs." And so we'd go through a song and we'd play it and we'd finish it, and he'd go, "Next." We'd play a song, we'd go through it, finish, and he'd go, "Next." And I'm like, wow, isn't he supposed to be like working these songs, And then we get to this one song, and Gary and I were just talking about this the other day. We're like, what was that? What was the lyrical content? And how did it go? Yeah, I'm like, I don't remember. But so we played it, and Dino goes, "Okay, time out." He goes, "This is the song." And we're like, "What?" He goes, "We have to have one song that really declares what you're all about." I mean, Word Records wants a song that just says Jesus,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, we're not against it, we just haven't really written anything like that.
Yeah.
And so when we got into the studio, we started laying all the songs down. We got all the songs down, and then we get to this song, and Dino's like, I have an idea, and I'm like, okay, and he's like, we have a God. And I'm just like, we have a God. Okay. I'm not real sure about that, but he's like, trust me on this. He's like, play the riff, So I started playing the riff, and he'd be just going like, yes, da-da-da-da, we have a God. And I'm just like, okay, that could work, and so he just went and just started writing all the new lyrics to it. So Dino wrote all the lyrics to that song, wrote the hook, as far as the lyrical hook and all that stuff. That was all Dino, and man, after we got done, I'm like, I'm digging this, and it turned out to be one of our best songs,
Yeah. It's funny you say Dino, because just as a fan, I'm always thinking, well, I think John Elefante is going to be doing the songwriting and more of the melody, and I always thought Dino was more the engineer, but that's not the case from what I hear.
Not in our instance. So, and I don't know, John had his input, believe me. In fact, him and I wrote the last song on the record together. I told him I want a mariachi band, and he was like, "What?" And I'm like, "I want to put a mariachi band in the middle of this song." And he's like, "Okay, why don't you and Dino go to lunch?" And I'm like, "Okay." So we got some lunch. And we were gone for probably a couple hours, and we come back, and he had that whole section done, and sounding amazing like it sounds on the record.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you're like a genius. And he really was and is,
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys are amazing to work with. I mean, they are the real deal. I mean, we wanted to be on Pachyderm Records at the time because, everybody did.
Top production, good sound.
Yeah, I mean, here you got two guys that, were like really in it at one time.
Yeah.
And to have somebody at that level, taking your songs and, putting them on a record, was a big deal, and not only that, but just, I mean, they knew their stuff. So, and we learned so much from them. I know I learned a lot as far as, arranging songs and production wise and things like that. That's when I started picking up things and learning, and so that's how we landed with John and Dino.
I just want to say, I think that record is a perfect 10. Pound for pound, you put that up against anything, Motley Crue, Skid Row. I mean, if that was a mainstream on the airplay regular radio, it would have been massive. I mean,
wow.
I had a hook, the production's there, the back vocals. There was just nothing. There was no weak point. There's no, let's skip this track.
Yeah.
Every track was a 10.
Yeah, thank you for that. And and what's crazy is we really just didn't know the impact that it had on people until years later, because Fear Not, the stint for Fear Not wasn't very long until everything just kind of the rug got pulled out from under us.
Music industry. So yeah. So how did Fear Not technically?
Everything,
Yeah.
we were still out playing. We were doing fly dates and stuff. In fact, the last one we did, we flew out to Houston, and we did a show with Love War. We did that show, and then we came back, and we just kind of had a meeting, and we were just really burnt out and struggling, and we're just like, it was a great show, and people responded really well, but we were struggling financially. Music took a turn, and it was just timing, right? It was just timing. Pachyderm sold the studio and moved to Nashville. We were still under contract with them and discussed about going out there and doing record number 2, but it just never got that far,
Yeah.
And I had some songs that I had ready to go, but they started to get used elsewhere. But so when we got back, we just kind of had a meeting, and that was like the end of it. We decided that we were just going to go, okay. And Chris he was in Nashville, and we were here, and I think might have even been planning to come to Oklahoma. I don't remember. So it was time, it was unfortunate because I don't think we were done, but,
Yep.
but again, just timing is everything, and it's God's timing. So, and here we are now.
Yep.
But
So the band ends. This is about, I want to say, March, April of 1997. I had just got email at a new job. I sent an email to Robert Sweet saying, "Hey Robert, big fan. You're just saying, they got the short end of the deal. People protesting, Christians protesting them, and hey, I support you guys." And I said, "Hey, at my work they had a toll-free number." I said, "Hey, call my toll-free number. You can call me anytime. Leave a message from up there." So he calls me up. I'm going to play it for the viewers here. I'm going to play it right now.
Hey Jeremy Brown, this is Robert Sweet. I wanted to call you, man. I got your phone number and extension off some email you sent me, and I really appreciate your letter, man. I'm so far behind on letters. We're losing them out of the computer. Just seems like hundreds of them are coming in so quickly. We're just overwhelmed. But I just read your letter today. I'm on the way to record some stuff with my new band Blank, and I think you'd ask me, wasn't I in Titanic or whatever. The confusion is I've played on a lot of people's demos, and since I've done that, I've been hired to play. A lot of people thought I've been in those bands, but I do have a new band Blank, and you had mentioned about Larry Worley. He's sitting here right next to me. He's going up to Vegas with me today, so anyways, I thought that was kind of trippy. But I just wanted to call you and let you know, man, I appreciate your mail and the nice things that you had to say, and a lot of times when people call, they think it's like somebody pulling a joke, but I promise it's really me. So, also I'm going to give you our office number. If you want to call there, I'll be back on Wednesday, okay? And if I'm not there, you can ask for my secretary, Julie, okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
So it said, he goes, "Hey, I'm sitting here with Larry Worley, and we're making some music." So what did that turn into Love Trash, or was that even something different than that?
yeah, no, that was actually a band that we were starting to put together. In fact, it was going to involve Rod and Bobby McNeil, who ended up playing with Sin Dizzy.
Okay.
So we were in the studio recording those songs that I was gonna do for the second album of Fear Not. So I had played those for Robert. He dug them, so we went in the studio and demoed them. And actually, it was "You've Got Love" and "Love Is All Right" from the EP. So I revamped those, brought them back, because they never really got. We just demoed them, and that was all. So they hung around all these years.
So how did you get hooked up with Robert? Did you just around the area?
I called him out of the blue. It was when he was, they weren't doing anything. Michael was doing his solo thing.
Yep.
And we had mutual friends, and I got his number. They okayed it, they knew who he was. So
yeah,
they knew who I was. So it took me a while to to give him a call, but I finally called him. And I said, hey, man, you know, I don't know what you're doing, but this is who I am. And I don't know if you've ever heard of me. And I don't think he did. I don't think he knew who we were. But
I think I asked you before, are those tracks anywhere to be heard? Those demos?
I know that I have a CD, but it's so wobbly. And I wish there was a way to bring that back. Now, I don't know if Robert still has one, but the copy I have is like, you know, it's barely audible. It bums me out. It's a cassette.
Tape or a CD?
It's a cassette tape.
Oh yeah,
yeah. On those demos that we did, yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
I mean, that's still before CDs.
Yeah.
You know, and or at least, you know, when you're demoing stuff.
So you work on those demos, but then that falls to
it never just came together. Robert ended up moving to Las Vegas, and I was still in California at the time, so I hadn't moved to Oklahoma yet. And it wasn't until like 2000, and we hadn't talked for a couple years.
Yeah.
And I get this phone call from him, and he's like, hey, Larry, you know, I'm here in Las Vegas. I just signed a record deal. I want you to come to Vegas, and I want you to sing on it. And I'm like, say no more. You know, heck yeah.
Say when.
Yeah. And so he brought me out there. He had already written all the songs. He had already had written all the lyrics, all the melodies, and everything. That album was Robert Sweet, you know.
All Robert Sweet.
Yep, he played everything. That dude, he's a talented man. And so basically what we would do is we would go into the foyer of the recording studio, and he would just sing me the melody, you know, and give me the lyrics, and then we would go back in and we would go line by line, you know, and over that song. So that's how we cut that song. He would just go, okay, here's the line, and I'm like, okay, and I'd belt it out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's I luckily have that on CD. That's a rarity. It's become a rare collectible now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just crazy for that thing.
I think I might have it over there somewhere in my little.
So time goes by. We don't hear from Larry. Well, did you do any solo stuff in between at all?
No. After that, I sold. I mean, I had so much gear it wasn't even funny. In fact, most of the gear on the back of that album was mine.
Wow.
On the back of Robert Sweet, the Love Crash album.
Yeah.
Oh, most of that was mine. Not all of it, but most of it.
I just assumed it was Robert's.
Yeah, no, that all like.
It's a cool picture. I like the picture.
Yeah.
So we don't hear from you for a while.
Yeah.
And at what point? And then you got social media coming up, Facebook, and all this stuff. And then I don't know if people started friending you, or did you join a Christian metal group and be like, hey, wow, people remember us?
Honestly, so I sold everything, all but an acoustic guitar, and I knew that I wanted to worship. That's what I wanted to do. So when I moved out here, man, I would do specials at churches, just with acoustic. Me and I'd pick worship songs that were going on, and I'd play those. And then I ended up becoming the worship leader at our church, and that's all I did. I wasn't even writing songs or anything like that. I was just, listen to worship, and then I'd learn worship songs that take them to the church, and we,
Yeah.
what people do,
Yeah.
and then then all of a sudden here's Facebook, social media, and I get this phone call from this guy, and he's like, Larry. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you are one hard guy to get a hold of. And I'm like, okay, I kind of like it that way, but you know, he's like, my name is Justin. I'm in a band called Liberty and Justice. We want to cover one of your songs, and not only do we want to cover it, but we want you to sing it with Derek Lefevre from Lily and Axe. And I'm like, what?
What?
Are you serious? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I do this? Because like I'm in Oklahoma,
Right.
And he goes, man, we'll send you files. All you got to do is just record it somewhere, send a file back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. So I had a friend who was, knowledgeable in that at the time, and because I was like clueless of where music
Technology.
is going and where the technology has been. And so I go to his place, and I cut the track, I send it to him, and and he puts it out there. So I don't know if you even know, but there's a cover of "We Have a God" by Liberty and Justice, and it's me and Derek Lefevre from Lily and Axe.
Yeah.
And that kind of got the ball rolling, and I still hadn't done anything. And then he calls me again, and he says, I'm doing another album of all covers, and I want you to sing this particular cover. And I mean, he had, on this album, he's got everybody. It's a double album. And I mean, he's got guys from Winger, I think Sebastian Bach, doing songs, Janie Lane from, I mean, the who's who, right? And he goes, I want you to sing Steelers Wheel. Oh gosh, what's the name of the song? So when clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right, here I am. Oh, Stuck in the Middle. Okay, so he's like, I want you to sing that song. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it was me, Andy Robbins, played bass from Holy Soldier.
Holy Soldier.
I don't remember who the drummer was. But anyways, and then it was Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses who played guitar on it. And I mean, that thing just smokes. That guy's an incredible guitar player.
That's what I hear, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. So so now I get to do that song. So now I'm starting to, get that.
Get the juices flowing.
Yeah. So now I'm like, okay, I want to start playing music. So I start buying guitars and things, and he, Justin Murr, who, by the way, we lost Justin last year.
Yeah, it's to COVID, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I was so shocked when I saw that.
I don't even know what to say. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just floored. But anyways, he was such a good guy to me. And literally brought me back into playing music.
Yeah.
Although it was really just doing his recordings and then just doing church stuff. But like you say, the juices were flowing again.
Yeah.
And
the itch.
yeah, yep. But we started doing a lot of stuff together. That a lot of it never came to fruition. You know, he actually put out a couple of digital releases, two EPs, and I did all the singing on those. One was live songs, and it was produced by J.K. Northrup,
Okay.
who's also incredible. So live songs, check those out. They're I think you could get them on Spotify. I'm not sure. And then there was another one called Better Than Maroon 5. Justin was a unique individual, but you know they were they're mostly his songs, and then I just sang them. Although on live songs I did get to do a remake of Love Is All Right. So anyways, yeah, that got it going again, and then it was about 2018, I think, that some guys in Oklahoma City kind of brought the band back together.
Okay.
You know, we got
For
to
a
go.
show or
No, just to come out. They're like, we want. They were. I mean, they're some of our best friends now, but they were like such huge dedicated fans that they put together a spot at their church. This church had a huge youth room, huge, and it had a big stage, and you know, at least stage enough for a band to set up on. And they're like, look, if you guys come out, we'll have everything set for you, and all you guys do have to show up and then just jam. Actually, it was Bill Rocks that did the remaster
right.
for the Fear Not. Yeah, and that got us talking again. That got us talking. And so when that came out, we got together, just jammed a couple of times, just jammed. That's all we did. Brought the old songs out, and it was like we saw each other last week. You know,
Yeah.
it was awesome. It was incredible. So we knew, okay, Lord, you're doing something. You're doing something. And so we thought about writing songs, but you know, I was telling them, listen, I would love to do this, but man, I struggle singing live anymore. You know, I don't know if it's just Oklahoma or what, but you know, 2 days ago I was talking fine, and then this morning it's like the allergies get so bad.
Yeah, I hear that.
Oh, but it's rough.
So Larry, you got signed to Rocks Records, and how did that come to be with Bill Bafford?
You know, he was big into reissues, right? Again, I think it was one of those things where he was wanting to do the Fear Not record for a while, but maybe just didn't know how to get a hold of us. I don't know. But then, you know, all of a sudden, lo and behold, you know, you put Facebook in and you start making those connections, you know.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that's probably how we hooked up, was either Messenger or something. And he says, you know, that he would love to do the remaster of the self-titled, and I'm like, you know, sure, you know. And I got with all the guys, and everybody else was like up for it, you know.
Yep.
And
again, it's hard to come by if they're new fans. They're paying top dollar on eBay trying to get this thing.
I know, it's crazy. You know, he put that out, you know, and then all of a sudden, here we are getting messages from people, you know, inquiring about, you know, hey, what happened to you guys? You know, why only one record? And then finding out like what that album really did back in the day, and just how many lives that it touched, and we had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, zero idea. And then people are messaging us just saying, you know, I was going through this and I was going through this, and man, it was that album that got me through it. And I'm just blown away. I'm like, are you kidding me? You know, we had zero idea. Zero. And so the guys and I, we would just talk about this stuff and just like, man, what an impact that it had, or what that God had, you know, with that album. You know, 'cause obviously we had nothing to do with it because we didn't even know. You know, it was just the anointing that God had on that album. You know, we wanted to step back into that again. We wanted to step back in under his covering and start playing music again and writing songs. And you know, I have to give a shout out to Brad Buell, Shay Fitzgerald, Raymond Christie, Michael D'Avenon. Those guys are the guys that got us back together, you know, after the release, you know, and got us to Oklahoma and got us playing together live again, you know, and just getting us talking and playing. And I don't know if we would have ever gotten back together if it wasn't for that, to actually get together in the room and start playing again. And to think, is this really possible? You know, that made it possible for us. We're like, we could do this, you know? And then especially learning about technology and where technology is. And even though we're, you know, spread out across the country, you know, we have the ability to do this. And so we started writing songs. And but within that, you know, I was telling them, you know, where I was at vocally, you know, and how, you know, recording wise, I could do it all day long, you know, because I could sing a line, take a break, come back, sing a line. But to do a full set, you know, I just am not vocally strong enough. And it you know, does it bother me? Yes, of course it bothers me. You know, I want to be 25 again and be able to hit those notes. But, you know, the reality of it is I'm not, and I can't, you know.
Right.
But within all this, though, my vocals are getting stronger, you know, being able to do all this stuff. But with that, I knew of a guy here in Tulsa. And I'm like, let me get in touch with this gentleman and then see if he's interested in coming over and laying something down, and then I want you guys to hear it.
Yeah.
And so I called him up and he was like, absolutely, I'd love to come over and do that. So he came over and he demoed Love Is All Right, completely just wailed. I mean, you know, from the original version that I cut it to then him cutting it, it was just night. I mean, he just came in and just like gave it so much energy and so much attitude. And I sent it to the guys, and they're like, "This guy can sing," you know.
Love is alright, free me tonight. Love is alright, save me tonight. Love is alright, free me tonight.
And so we all agreed, you know, we're like, okay, you know, we loved Eddie. You know, he's got an awesome family. You know, I know him personally because he's local here. So it worked out great. And he goes, well, I know this producer here who's in town. I'm like, man, that's awesome. He goes, let me call him and see if he'd be interested in letting us come in and cutting some songs. And so, cool. So he gets in touch with him. We go in, and I just hit it off with this guy. You know, his name is Kyle Simpson. And I just hit it off. And so we started tracking these songs. It's like he's the sixth member, you know, of Fear Not, because he just gets us, you know. I could just come in with an idea and we lay it down, and then he just brings it to life. And man, and you talk about somebody who's knowledgeable and who's willing to teach you. I was a sponge, believe me. I learned so much from this guy. So, but we got in there and we were able to cut the 5 songs and got with Bill. And Bill, are you interested in putting this out? And he's like, absolutely, you know. We got with Rocks again. He put it out and, you know, did pretty well. We got good feedback, which is what we were hoping for, because that was again, that was like the stepping stone to the next,
Yep.
and so we started playing out. We got to do some shows, we got to play live. We got to play the KOUJ Block Party. We've done a show out here in Shakota. So we played live. We've got that itch going now.
Don't want none, come get some. I can handle anything. Just when you think I'm down, I'll kick you in the teeth. Don't want none, come get some. You don't want the trouble I bring. Don't want none, come get some.
And all of a sudden, COVID hits.
Yep.
And
Stops.
yeah, but we took advantage of that, and although we've all gone through so much during that time, I mean, a lot, which put a hindrance on how long this new album has
Right.
has taken to come to fruition. But again, timing is everything, and it's all God's timing, and we
Yep.
never worried about it. We never stressed about it. We're just like, as long as God's in it, that's all that matters to us.
Yeah.
And
Larry, I just want to say, as a fan, we do love your vocals, and as fans, you always want to hear the original vocalist. And I remember writing on Facebook, I go, "Oh, I like the new EP. Man, I miss your vocals." And some people be like, "Well, tough, buddy. That's the way it is, and that's what we're doing now." You're like, "Hey, man, that's cool. I appreciate your comment. You came across in love instead of like attacking." And the fans, and again, Area 321 and Joe Walker, we were all talking about it. We're like, we just loved your vocals, and we love Eddie's vocals.
yeah,
It's nothing against Eddie. It's just
Yeah.
that we love your voice.
I know.
I just want to let you know, even though you're not singing full, and sometimes I know you're doing like backing vocals, and I'm like, "Oh, that's Larry in backing."
Yeah,
And I began to pray. Won't change come my way. I don't know why. When is today gonna be my day?
It really enhances it, and I want to let you know that we as fans really appreciated your voice, and I don't know, I always kind of compared you to Mark Slaughter a little bit, but I
Yeah.
thought you have a more I don't know what the right word is, where Mark would sing in the high register all the time,
yeah,
do that, but you also had this character in the mid to low range too. So
Yeah.
I always thought you were actually a better vocalist than he was, and people.
wow, wow.
I just want to show some love and let you know that the fans, we understand you can't do what you could do 30 years ago, but we want to let you know that we miss you and that we do love Eddie's vocals. So
Well,
I look forward
that's
to
awesome.
hearing more from him. So I just
Yeah.
want to throw that out there before we get any further, but I wanted to let you know that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that, and believe me, I mean, I honestly get it. I get it that, because I'm not blind to the whole thing and how people react or would react or have reacted, and it's unfortunate, and literally I feel bad, but at the same time it's like, God's brought us to a new season, and he brought Eddie to us, and we're still making music, and I'm still doing 90% of the writing, I really do appreciate that, and I'm thankful that that people are starting to warm up to Eddie and starting to realize, man, what he has to offer and what
Yeah,
he brings to the table.
he's got nice power in his vocals.
He is, believe me. Have you heard the whole record? Have you had the chance to hear?
I haven't heard the new one yet. I have the EP.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, I really think you're in for a treat, and I
Nice.
really think that you're gonna love it.
So by the time this comes out, guys, the viewers, this should be already be released. It's called Fields of Sorrow on Rocks Records. So
Mhm.
that should be out by the time you guys watch this.
Awesome.
So what was the process like on the new record? Was it pretty much remote, sending files, or did you guys get together, or how did that work?
Yeah. So in my studio, I now have a really nice setup. In fact, my computer sits on top of my console, and it's all touch screen and digital, and
Oh, nice.
it's yeah. And like I said, man, I was a sponge, and I've learned a lot. So basically, most of everything was cut here in this room. Eddie's vocals were cut here. All my guitars. Chris would fly out, cut his guitar tracks.
Okay.
The bass and everything. Gary cut his the stuff out there in L.A.
Yep.
And then we would send the files to Kyle, who's now in Minnesota.
Oh,
And so we would send him the raw files, and he just beautified it. It's kind of cool because for the most part I could say this on this one. I'm really proud to be a part of the production on this record.
Cool.
I'm really proud of this one. Kyle obviously is the man, but I engineered basically the whole thing. Did a lot of almost all the arrangement and stuff. Kyle's hand is all over this, and he's the one that brings it to life. I cannot do any of this without Kyle. Kyle is the mad scientist. He is a genius. I'm just proud of that fact. And when I called him, I just called him up and said, "Hey, Kyle, are you okay if I, just put my credits on as engineering this, because, I'd like to, if a business was to start, or I'd like to, for the credit reasons." And he's like, "Dude, you put producer." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Dude, you produced this just as much as I did, And I'm like, "Wow, that's huge, dude." And so, but I'm telling you, Kyle is the man. He allowed me to put that producer on there, but
Yeah, that's cool.
engineering mainly, producing, that guy takes the cake. He's the credit. He's the genius. But I just thought it was cool.
Nice. Yeah, we're all looking forward to hearing the new CD and the
Oh.
record.
Yeah, dude, I'll send you some tracks.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll put some clips in between here. We'll get some sound bites, and so the fans can hear, give them a taste.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we put out a little bit of a teaser a little while back, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I know you did a Facebook Live one time, and you were check out these songs. I watched that whole thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds so good.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. I went through about up to the chorus.
Yeah, you went through a lot. You're like, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this, but I
Oh
don't
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we're looking forward to that. And also, you put out a solo release.
Mhm.
When did that come out, and how can fans get that?
Oh gosh. So maybe it was maybe it was around the end of 2019, maybe.
Yep,
I don't know.
on the screen. Yeah, people will be able to see the dates.
Yeah. But
And was that released? Who was that released
yeah,
to?
I was actually on Rocks as well.
It was, okay.
Yep. I got to talking to Bill, and
It's another one I gotta get. And I know that's more of a was it a more of acoustic, or what was the style on that?
no, it's
Or country?
actually kind of a full blown worship album.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, but when I say full blown, it's not like full blown rock like a Fear Not thing.
Yep.
It's traditional modern worship album, and
Nice.
it's accumulative of the
And it's original.
songs that I like. No,
Originals?
it's like all the songs that
Oh,
all the songs that were like that are near and dear to my heart.
okay.
I just wanted to put something out there, because for one, I'm able to sing that stuff. So I'm like, maybe this will give people a chance to hear me. Um,
And then of course the fans are like, "Well, you sang on that. Why can't you?"
I know. I thought about
It's a
that.
two-edged sword.
I thought about that. But if you heard the difference in it, you would know that it's nothing like if I was singing Fear Not. It's
Yeah.
very, very toned down.
Different.
And like what I would do is if I was singing in church, the worship songs in church.
Yeah.
But I'll have to send you one.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll send you one.
We'll put some clips on.
Lead me to the cross where your love poured out. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross.
Yeah.
And my last question is your new project with Stacey Roberts from The Brave.
Yeah.
Is that kind of on the back burner? Is that moving forward? What's the status of that? Do you guys have a band name, or haven't gotten that far, or?
Yeah, I'll have to let him tell you about the band name because I'm not sure if what he said was serious or not. So, but we have been recording. Now I know that like at the moment, because when we started really moving along with things, but then he got really covered up with Gravedigger.
Yep.
And then we were trying to finish, Fields of Sorrow, and then he's got some other projects in the works. So
Stacey's so cool. He's a cool guy.
Stacey is amazing.
Yeah.
He's such a cool dude. He's got such a great heart, and I mean, you talk about real. That guy's real, and not only real, but he is real talented.
Oh, amazing.
He is a shredding guitar player. He is so underrated. I mean, that guy can hold his own against anybody. And when I say anybody, I really mean anybody.
Yeah. So underrated. So underrated.
Yeah, and has come along with this singing,
Yeah.
He just like came out of nowhere.
So for me, I followed almost every Christian rock metal band, and somehow the Brave got by me, and I never followed them. So last year I picked it up, and then I saw Stacey on Area 321 with Rex, Kent, and Mike, and they were playing the new clips on Evie's Little Garden. I was like, wow, this is really good. So
Yeah.
I just went online, ordered all of his CDs, sent it, listened to it, and I was just blown away.
Yeah, yep. I love his songwriting.
And
even
his vocals were great.
Yeah.
I go, who's singing on this?
Have you gone
I
back?
don't know.
Have you gone back further and listened to like the Battle Cries and Trust and
Yeah,
stuff?
I got both of those.
Can you hear me in Trust?
Yeah, I was gonna say you were saying the background vocal on Trust. You told me the
I
story.
love it. I love it. I'm so proud of that, man, because those songs are amazing. I was so blessed to be able to sing those, and when I listen to those songs, I'm always going, "That's me. That's me on that." They're such great songs, man.
So on the new project, what can you tell us? Like what style or how is it different than Fear Not or The Brave? Is it going in different directions, or who's the songwriter?
Yeah, it's definitely not The Brave, and it's definitely not Fear Not, but it's definitely rock and roll. And I think this stuff is more of like there's kind of like no holds barred, if you will. There's no rhyme or reason to what we're writing, you know.
Yeah.
So he may write a song, and then I may bring in a song, and and they'll just kind of gel together. He's producing it all. He's gonna mix it all. I mean that guy can really do it all.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So we have a couple songs that we've got in the works. One I think is I think I finished all my vocals on it. I'm excited about it. Looking forward to it. So
Maybe I'll contact him. Maybe he can send me a few clips. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, he has all that. I don't know if they're even nearly ready for that, but I think there'll be some surprises on there too.
Cool. Yeah, we can't wait to hear that project.
He's excited because every time we talk, he goes, "Oh, you're gonna love this next one." So I'm like, "Heck yeah, bring it." So hopefully, after everything is put out with Field of Sorrow and
Fair enough.
and the Gravedigger and all that stuff, when things start settling down, we'll probably get back out of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how can the fans support Larry Worley and Fair Not? How can we support you? The best.
Oh my gosh. Well, you can make checks payable. Of course, we have our Fear Not Facebook page.
Okay.
Please go. If you haven't followed us, give us a like and a follow. I guess that's what helps, right?
Yep.
I'm just learning all this stuff, and probably because that's why I'm posting all the time because I don't know, and don't hate me if I post something twice because I don't know if I did or not. But and then we have our Reverb Nation, Fear Not at Reverb Nation, but mainly the Facebook page, or Bill Rocks.
Go through Rocks Records.
Rocks Records.
Yep.
Definitely.
Have your Soul CD, the remasters.
He has it all. Yes, sir. And I mean you can message me too.
Yep.
I think I've got some merch here. If anybody's looking at merch,
like T-shirts or anything.
ChristianBandshirts.com. Is that it?
Yeah.
We have all that.
Yeah, I'll put that at the bottom here.
Cool.
People. So, anything else, Larry, that you can think of, or?
This is just heavy on my heart all the time now. It's just we're living in a crazy world, right?
It's really crazy.
It's bonkers, right? We have to stay so in tune with the Father. If anything, let me just encourage you with every time you wake up, put the fruit of the Spirit on. Put the shield of faith, the sword of the Spirit, let's put that full armor on and go to battle every day because that's what it is right now. It's a battle, and we have to come together. We have to unite. We have to be together. We cannot have division because that's what's going to set it apart. If we are divided, we're going to be conquered. Let's not do that. Let's love one another. Let's encourage one another. Lift each other up, and pray for one another.
Yep. Be a light into the darkness.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Larry. Thank you for taking the time and being on Torrential Riff. I appreciate you answering all the questions I had, and it's been a lot of fun talking to you. And can't wait to hear the new record and the new project with Stacey Roberts.
Awesome.
So, for being on the show.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. It was an honor. See you, buddy.
If you made it to the end and you're watching this, you are a legend and a true fan of Larry Worley. I try to get something special for you guys. So we're going to hear a clip of the new project with Stacey Roberts and Larry Worley. Check it out now.
Sit beside myself and wonder what could be, could have been. When it all seems lost, I have to count the cost, the sacrifice that comes within. When it